This is my attempt to show you how to sew on paper. What I have here is the watercolor paper. It's quite thick. It's 100% cotton. I have already done some paper mache on here with paper from a book. I've already done some watercolor on here. And now I am sewing it's an incomplete construction paper snail that I'm creating. And I'm using just regular sewing thread and a regular sewing needle. This is a thimble with a magnet attached to it to keep my needle safe. And I'm using, this is the end of a candle. This is wax I use to put on my thread to make it easier to go through the paper. It just slides through better. And you'll see I have some snippers here just to snip my thread with. And occasionally I might use a needle threader to help get my thread onto my needle. So those are my supplies. And then I will, of course, sew the thread through the paper just like I would if I were sewing fabric. So, haha, get it? So I pull off the length of thread that I think I'll need, just pulling off. I think that should be enough. And then I take my snippers and I snip carefully, avoiding my fingers and my hand. Safety first. I'll put that to the side. And then I take my wax. I'm gonna move that because sometimes the wax gets crumbly. And this is just my tabletop. Sometimes I put a thing down to protect it, but today is not a really messy thing, and wax just kind of wipes off very easily. Sometimes we hear Perry talking to us. You might hear her in the background. Hi, Perry. So I'm just pulling that thread through. Perry, hi, everything is okay? Yes, ma'am, it is. It's quite all right. So I'm just gonna pull that through several times, just like this. You'll see me do that. And sometimes after sewing for a while, the wax will need to be reapplied. You can do that with the needle still on. I can show you how to do that. So next I'm going to take my, sometimes I'll use my snippers to hold my thread down in case the fan blows it, or, you know, wind or whatever. I can apply my threader to the eye of my needle very carefully. It's hard to do on camera, so let me just, oh, there we go. And I can remove my magnet, but I will keep it close by just in case. Then I can find the end of my thread, loop it over, and then make sure I have a good length, holding it with my fingers, and gently pull my needle, making sure not to poke myself. Pull my needle off of my threader. You can see you can let go and gently pull it down. And now it is on my thread. I can pull it off of my threader, pull the cover back down so I can protect it so it doesn't get broken. Move that off to the side since we don't need it anymore. And again, I find that magnet helpful to manage my needle. So I'm going to stick that down so it doesn't poke me. And then I can use that to straighten my thread. And off camera here, I'm trying to get these lengths together so that they are, there it is. So that they are the same, or close enough to the same. They don't have to be perfect, but close enough to the same. Gather those together, and then you can use your, just do your best to straighten that string out, that thread out. Again, that magnet comes in handy to help you not poke yourself. You can just go grab a magnet off of your refrigerator and you can use that to help you pull that. And I'm just running my hands, my fingers down the length of that thread, just like that, just pulling it, using my hand just to pull it. And you can also use the wax and pull it. And then when I get it to where I need it, I can loop it around the two fingers like that. Pull this through a couple of times, like 1, and then 2. Uh-oh, here we go, 2. If it goes through a couple more, that's okay. You just want to make a knot down here at the end and pull it as close to the end as you can. Here we go, close to the end as you can. And sometimes I leave a fun tail, like I did with this one. I left the tail, but on this one I'm going to snip it because I don't want the tail. So the way that I do that, when I snip it, again, safety first, so I'm going to hold it like this. So I see that I have a knot here. I'm going to take my snippers, resting them on my pinky, away from myself. I'm going to find that knot, and I'm going to go just above it, snipping off that edge. And this part will go to the trash. And then I have that little knot with that little tail. There we go. Now I am ready to start sewing. So my thimble goes on my middle finger of my dominant hand, meaning the hand that I write with. I am a left-hander, so my thimble goes on my middle finger of my left hand. Now I will use this to push my needle through my fabric or paper or whatever I'm sewing. With this one, sometimes we start in the front, like here, I started in the front, and sometimes I start in the back. That is your choice. You are the artist, so you get to decide where you start. I pre-poked my holes because it's really thick. You can decide if you want to poke holes first or if you want to poke holes as you sew. And then you get to decide where you start. I'm going to start where I left off with my orange. And that hole, the same hole where my orange left off, I'm going to start. I poke through. You see I used my, I used my thimble, not my finger, because this end also can poke you and it will also hurt you. So be very careful, use your thimble to poke through. Then I'm going to turn over. It's really, I don't have a lot of space, so I have to turn over. There we go, so I turn over. You see my needle is already poked through because I used my thimble to poke through. Then I can pull it through. If I need to poke through again, I will go to the back and poke through more with my thimble. See how I'm holding as I pull through. Now, I'm going to flip over to make sure I'm not tangling. And I can use my fingers back here to slowly guide. I'm going slow, and I'm not pulling it all the way through. I'm going to hold that to make sure it doesn't go anywhere. And then I'm going to go to the next one. I'm going to move my fingers because I don't want to poke myself. I'm going to poke through, moving all fingers. I'm going to slowly turn it over because I don't want my needle to fall out. I'm going to make sure my needle is poked through using that thimble. Poke my needle through. And that is how we can sew paper. Now, sometimes you will get snags. We can flip it over, holding our needle, and gently work those snags out and pull, just like that. Nice and slow. And we breathe with our belly. Deep breaths into our belly, and we poke back through. There we go, back through. I'm gonna make sure our thread is all on this side. Flip, find our needle. Yes, it's where we need it to be. Using our thimble, push our needle up, pull our needle through. Remember, it is sharp. Uh-oh, our camera moved. There we go. I think it'll stay this time. Maybe. Hey camera, can you stay? There we go. And our record ended. So that is how we sew paper. And that's all the time we have today. So thank you for watching. And Perry says goodbye. Yes, Perry. It is time for our next activity. Thank you. Much love. Bye-bye.